Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to our Thursday marketing webinars. Again, we are here with Christopher Amos, founder of No Boundaries Marketing. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Today, Chris is going to talk about communicating with customers in a post-COVID-19 world, which right now, this is probably the perfect time to approach the subject. And I know we're going to learn a lot. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. If not, or you miss anything, please know that we do record the webinars, so you are able to access them. If you go to the City of Surprise Economic Development Department YouTube channel, all of Chris's webinars are on there. So if you've missed something or you watch it again or refer it, go ahead and you can watch it anytime. Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Well, normally I don't wear a hat, but I got a haircut and I think I look crazy. So yeah, wearing a hat today. So in any case, today's conversation is going to be around crisis communication, is going to be around COVID, that elephant in the room that, exists every single time somebody walks in the room with you or, whatever the case may be. But we need to have that discussion. You need to be a part of that conversation. The important thing that I stress to clients and prospects alike is that, this is a really challenging time. It's, we're having almost daily conversations about, how people feel, how people think. Some people express their opinions, some don't. But almost on a daily basis, I see a review from, in some form or fashion for one of my clients that references somebody not wearing a mask or somebody not social distancing or this or that. And so you have to understand that regardless of your feelings or perception, this is a real concern for people. And unfortunately, or fortunate, however you want to look at it, people are willing to speak their mind now. And, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the internet provides them that, that platform to do that. Sites like Yelp, Google My Business, again, anybody can hop on and leave a review about a business. And yeah, that can have lasting effects on it. So today we're going to talk about, and again, there's no deck for this. There's not, any per se resources. Really, this is just a conversation. So if you guys have any questions, we're an open book on this. I would encourage you, give me a call, whatever we can do to help. We can oftentimes guide people through situations. We develop everything, entire PR models for clients, crisis communications, you name it. Because again, we have to be sensitive to really what's going on in the world and the environment around us. Because again, this is top of mind to most individuals. So the first things first is, the elephant in the room is obviously COVID right now. No matter what your feelings are on it, if you love it, you hate it, you don't believe in it, you believe in it, whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. It's what other people think and what your customers think. You may have great relationships with all your customers, but again, it only takes one to leave that negative review or to say something in a public setting that ultimately can create a nightmare of an issue for you and your business. So be cognizant of how people could perceive your actions. A great example is this. Have a great client, again, very, very, very much, cognizant of COVID-19. In fact, they got it themselves. So very sensitive to that. Avid mask wearers, avid sanitizers, they do everything according to CDC guidelines and then some. Unfortunately, the other day, a review came in and we happened to catch it, and it was apparently a customer that had walked in and saw one of the staff without a mask on. Apparently, they had mentioned something to the staff, and they ended up just getting dismissed. Again, there's two sides to every story, but that was the customer side. That's the review that they left. And so what does that leave? Now everybody can see that review. Anybody who Google searches anything relative to that business, guess what the last review is? Now, there's ways to combat that. That's for another class. But the point of it is, we really have to be cognizant, because all it takes is one or two of these to really start to influence your search traffic. And so again, we want this to be top of mind. The first thing that we talk about with clients is, again, to really make sure that you're having this conversation with all of your employees. Now, whether you're a sole proprietor and it's just you, or maybe husband and wife team, again, that doesn't mean you don't talk about it. You need to have a game plan in place. CDC publishes guidelines that tell us who, what, when, where, and why. And so, they're there for the public's protection. And again, these are great resources for us as business owners to utilize when, coming up with these type of game plans. There's tons of other resources. Here in the city of Surprise, the city has produced tons and tons of information on this. They have links to tons and tons of resources. And so we want to go with trusted resources when developing these game plans, because again, what we don't want to do is just utilize what we think as individuals and apply that to our company policy. Again, it doesn't matter what you think. It's not about what you and I as business owners think. It's about what the public's going to perceive. So again, I encourage all of my clients and anybody who we consult with, you really, really, really need to take into consideration what those CDC guidelines are. You need to put yourself in the consumer's position of all demographics, and you need to try your best. And again, nobody's going to be perfect, but you need to try your best to ensure the health and safety of those around you. So with that said, a couple of quick things that we're going to go over. So again, have a mask policy. A lot of people, believe it or not, they're looking for that on the window, on the door. Where the first thing that they want to see is, believe it or not, that mask policy. That can dictate whether or not they come into your place of business if you're a brick and mortar store. So again, that's first and foremost. The second thing is, what are your COVID-19 policies? How are you sanitizing workstations? What does that look like? Believe it or not, people want to see that now. That's one of the top things that we get asked. And so even on our site, you can go to our website, you can look at our COVID-19 policy. You can see what we're doing, how we adapt to this changing environment. And so again, all of that is published real time for a consumer to look at. Believe it or not, I've had people call me and say, you know what, I've read that. I'm still not comfortable coming in. Can we just do a meeting over the phone? Absolutely. We're not here to force anybody's arm at that. And certainly we can accommodate that. So, this is stuff we need to be cognizant of moving forward as business owners. Have a COVID-19 policy. That also usually includes the mask policy as well. And make sure that you're willing and able to publish that information, because that's what oftentimes consumers are looking for. Now, just because we have a policy doesn't mean everybody understands it. And so step 2 to this is to make sure, if you do have employees or business partners, whatever it is, you need to disseminate that information to make sure that you're all on the same page. Now, companies with a couple of employees, pretty easy to do. Companies with hundreds of employees, a little bit different. Now, I've seen it to where companies are now putting in place managers and positions that are in charge of enforcing that or in charge of adhering to that policy. However, or whatever your size your business is, you need to make sure that you have a person or point of contact that is there and able to answer to that policy, who's able to remind employees that, hey, this is the policy, you need to adhere to it. Again, it only takes one instance where somebody sees or hears or whatever the case may be that you're not doing something, or that you did something out of the source that put somebody's health and safety in jeopardy, that you're going to end up the receiving end of a really negative PR nightmare. And so again, we're trying to be proactive and making sure that taking small little steps can make a big difference down the road for us. So have somebody that's accountable to enforce that rule and truly enforce the rule. Again, I have clients that have been in situations to where they do have the COVID policy. We put that together for them. We have disseminated it to the employees. And then all of a sudden, well, these people don't feel the need to do it. That's not acceptable. That will end up creating issues for you. So you have to be cognizant of that stuff. You have to make sure that everybody's on the same page and willing and able to adhere to it. I tell, we have weekly staff meetings and we talk about it. Again, we don't have too much foot traffic, but that doesn't negate the fact that we're still accountable to ensure the health and safety of those in our building even. So really think that one through. If you're going to set a policy, you need to adhere to it. I can't stress that enough, is that, it's not enough. We don't produce this stuff just to say it and, to pacify people. We do it because we really need to believe in it. We really need to adhere to it, and we need to enforce that policy. And the same thing with customers. Again, my favorite is when you go into, again, a retail establishment, and again, the company posts a very visible mask policy or very visible hygiene policy, whatever the case may be. And the next thing you know, customers are walking in without a mask, customers are doing all sorts of stuff. And you sit back and you ask yourself, well, a lot of good that did. That was pretty pointless because maybe the cashier doesn't feel comfortable calling that person out. You have to empower your employees to do that. Customers need to be held accountable. If they're unwilling to, follow whatever rule you put in place, is that really the right customer for you? Because that's pretty disrespectful. So again, we're not trying to impose our will on other people. It's our business, and we should be willing and able to enforce the rules that we put in place. So again, love it or hate it, this is just the reality of doing business nowadays. Next up, one of the, I don't want to say it's pretty important. Let's just say that. It's not the most important, but it's pretty important, is that we have to plan for the worst. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. And I'm not referring to an owner or, core business person, planning for this. That is obviously something you should do as well. But from a PR perspective, we need to have a crisis communication plan. Should something happen, should something be said, should something come up in the press or public, we need to be able to respond, and we need to respond tactfully. Again, this is super sensitive right now, and I don't think most business owners that we consult with, at least, they don't understand the gravity of how important this is. And again, your feelings aside, you really have to think about what's the public perception. Well, I can tell you, public perception, polling, statistics, they all lean into those who, are concerned about it. And quite frankly, people look at it as a blatant disrespect when you don't adhere to the policy. Again, we're not perfect, and me as a business owner, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I get a little too casual sometimes, and so I even have to be reminded as the PR person, that we need to adhere to the rules. So again, this isn't to say that, you have to have perfection every day. We understand mistakes happen, but you're accountable for those. And so that's where a crisis communication plan comes in. It's important to understand, how are you going to respond to it? Who is going to respond to it? What's going to be said when, that happens? What does your follow-up look like? How do you communicate to your clients if something happens like this? What if you get COVID? What do you say? Do you need to notify your clients? If you get COVID, how do you notify your clients? So there's so many questions that need to be answered there. But again, the important thing is you need to have a crisis communication strategy on basically enforce. Because again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will get a review if you're not following the proper CDC guidelines. Somebody perception-wise will think that you're doing something that is either unsafe or not conducive to the health and safety of the public. And so people will make comments, people will say stuff. How you react will make the world of difference for your business. We don't want to go defensive. We don't want to lash out. Those are usually the first responses most people have. We want to be calm, structured. We want to be thorough, detailed. We want to make sure that we're accountable and that we acknowledge. So again, all of those things show that a business truly cares and they're committed to making a difference or a change. So again, those are just a few things, but think about what your customers need right now. There's a lot of stuff out there that, perception wise, customers feel one way or the other. So really think about, what did your customers need right now? How do you communicate? That's going to be really, really important. Listening to their problems. That's another one. Again, if you do get sucked into a conversation about COVID, be educated enough to speak about it. If they've had COVID or if they have a problem with, something that you're doing, you need to make sure that you listen. We're not here to be defensive. Again, that's the normal people. That's their first reaction to it. But really think that through and just do yourself a favor. Listen. Even I have a hard time with that. Somebody comes at me with something, normally my first reaction is, well, what do you mean? Oh, well, that's not exactly true. You want to be defensive about it. Take a step back, breathe, take it all in, and let them elaborate. Ask them probing questions. Oftentimes we can really pacify by showing a genuine concern. Take a holistic approach to revamping your communication. So again, if you're looking in the future, with your email marketing, stuff like that, really look into that. What could you change in there? Because the way you did business last year, the year before, or 5 years ago is obviously different than you're going to be doing, how you're doing business today. One thing that this pandemic has taught us is to be nimble and efficient as businesses, is to adapt to change. And if you don't, a lot of businesses, unfortunately, are dying by the vine. And that, they could be industry related. A lot of the times, though, we're finding that some of these businesses are just unable or unwilling to adapt to the current environment. And so, again, now you're starting to see the, repercussions. So, again, look at your communication strategy. Take a holistic approach. Don't be afraid to talk about COVID, but be able just make sure that you put your best foot forward on it, I guess is the best way to say it. If you're going to preach a practice, if you're going to, tell people how you do business nowadays, you need to make sure that that's actually how you do business. Hold everybody accountable for that, including your clients. Again, crisis communication, I think we've really kind of gone through that quite a bit. Make sure you publicize your communication, your COVID-19 strategy. Google, Yelp, website, social media platforms, they all have areas for this now. So again, that just shows you this isn't going away. So make sure that if you haven't done that, make sure you log into those platforms, make sure that that is visible. Ours, we put a banner right at the top of our website to make sure it is clear as day. But again, for you, you may not be comfortable with that, but just, again, make sure that that's readily available for clients to see. Show engagement. That's a phenomenal option. Whenever you respond or you're addressing a problem out in front, oftentimes that's answering a lot of questions or challenges that people have. So I always tell clients, first we were like, no, don't talk about COVID. And that's just based on where we were at that point in time. Now that's a part of the conversation. It's mainstream now. Everybody talks about it, whether, no matter how you feel about it, we're all talking about it. So don't be afraid to talk about it. Just be educating on it. Next up is thought leadership pieces. This is one that a lot of people really don't participate in, and it shocks me. As a restaurant owner, you can be an industry leader with best practices and publishing information. Reaching out to media sources yourself and talking about what you're doing to ensure the health and safety of your clients. If you have some innovative way or you're doing business a different way, like I said, thought leadership pieces, you can chime in on your industry and in your environment and really demonstrate how you're doing business moving forward, and maybe somebody else can pick up on that. So again, thought leadership pieces are a fantastic PR strategy, something that can very easily be done. Another great option, and I think we'll probably wrap up with this today, is really community support. Right now, that sense of community is so strong. We have, a lot's been stripped away from us as business owners and as consumers. And so the way that we do business oftentimes can be very impersonal now, ordering something online or, there's no face to that transaction anymore. So really looking at things as to how can we get our name and our vision and our business out there to the community. Well, think about community service, think about some nonprofit stuff. Again, a lot of volunteer activities have been kind of shelved for now. So this might be your opportunity to step forward and, maybe you're collecting food for the homeless. Maybe you're going to start I actually saw this the other day where there was somebody on Facebook that was starting basically a GoFundMe for local businesses in the area. The people's true nature really comes out. It's beautiful to see how people adapt to the changing environment. Again, not everybody, but it only takes one to do a really big thing like that. Believe it or not, I actually looked at it the other day. I had bookmarked it for whatever reason. And I actually went back to look at it the other day, and there's actually, believe it or not, a few $1,000s in that fund. Again, it's not much, but maybe they help out 1, 2, 3 businesses. Who knows? But imagine for those business owners how amazing that is. Even if it's not B2B related, B2C, you can do canned food drives. You can do a number of things. But again, just make sure you're cognizant of the whole COVID-19 thing. Make sure you're cognizant of, how you're sanitizing products, how you're sanitizing things that you're going to give out to the public. Oftentimes food banks, stuff like that, you need to see what their policies are on receiving gifts or, things. So maybe right now financial contributions are the best way to go. So like I said, I don't want to stifle anybody's generosity. So whatever it is or however you look to do that, getting that community support and building that sense of community humanizes your brand. And it's a big deal nowadays because, again, a lot of times these are faceless transactions. I know even, my insurance agent, you can talk to them on the phone, but really a lot of the stuff that we do is going to be DocuSign and, click this link and fill out this form. Even my wife and I were talking about this the other day. Even ordering groceries, we don't even go to the grocery store anymore. We order delivery, and pros and cons to that. Not going to get into that today, but there's a lot of faceless transactions that are happening now. So do yourself a favor, humanize your brand, look to that community support, look to those thought leadership pieces on getting out there and being an influencer within your own world. Utilize social media, but do it responsibly. That's a big thing. Again, regardless of what your feelings are on mask policies or hygiene or hand sanitizer or COVID, be cognizant of other people's feelings. I know that we're all in this together. We all struggle. We're all going through a lot right now. And so this is just be sensitive to other people's feelings. You may not agree with it, and that's okay. But that's what makes us, human. We don't have to agree, but we also don't have to impose our will. So as always, if you have any questions, if there's anything we can do for you, like I said, we're a wealth of information. We can walk you guys through stuff, answer questions, give you tips, tools, resources, all sorts of stuff. So if you have any questions, please give us a call. Our office number is 602-377-7773, or you can always email us or check out our website and reach out to us.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. Great reminder that no matter what we think, it's not about us. It's about other people and their feelings. And, whatever your policies are, you need to stick to them, and whatever your beliefs are, because you want to make your customers feel comfortable. Your customer comes first. So that was very informative. I think we can all take a piece of that in our daily life as well, just in our personal things. So thank you. And Chris will be back next week, same time, same place, talking about content for your Facebook page, your business page. So that's very important, because obviously your Facebook page and your Facebook business page are two different animals. So thanks again, Chris. I hope you have a great afternoon. And
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. So we'll see you next week.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.